Hey guys, Sean K. Carpenter here from the Ollin group, and I'm super stoked right now. I've got David Miller with me here, man on fire. He's we're doing this interview here. I'm really honestly I couldn't say how stoked I am about this because I've been following this guy for a while. He's a mentor of mine, a friend of mine. He's really simply he's a developmental mentor. He's an entrepreneur, you could say a life strategist, and yeah, and he's the creator of Man on Fire. It's something that if you've been following that at all, you know how powerful this is. He teaches men essentially to live with more power, with more passion, with more purpose in every area of their life, especially marriage. That's actually I think how I found you initially was looking for some help that way. Um, and from what I know of him, he believes that every man, every one of us is born to be a masculine leader, and you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but that really there's kind of two reasons that really stand out in everything I've seen is and read and heard is that we're here to grow, to evolve our consciousness. So that's kind of number one, and kind of embrace our sacred responsibility, you could call it. I believe that's your words for it, to be of greater service. And number two is to, and I love this part, is to protect the sacred feminine heart, and I'm all about that. So is that kind of sum it up, David?
You nailed it. Next time I'm just going to say, hey, I want to introduce you to David Miller. He's a guy I know and he's from the Bronx. That'd be so much easier.
Yeah, totally right.
And he lives in California, so he's balancing out his yang and his yin.
Totally. Actually, one thing I can totally say is you know the power and the strength that you have. You're also so incredibly humble. Like I love it too, right? It's actually really refreshing for me.
That's sweet of you. Thank you.
Um, so basically, I want to talk about kind of your background. I want to talk about Man on Fire. Why, like I'm for me, I'm really passionate. I think guys should be, flocking to work with you. To be honest. So I want to kind of go through that, ask a couple of questions. So I guess to start, what's my first question for you? Let me have a look here. Where we're going. So, essentially for you, well, let's put it this way: if there was like a secret passion, and maybe it's not so secret in your life, what would it be? Well, what is your passion? Like, why this route?
Yeah, it's not a secret. My passion is to honor the fact that we were given this opportunity called life.
Mm-hmm.
That we get to borrow this physical vessel that we call a body that houses our spirit, that houses our soul, and that we came here for a reason. We came here for a purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
that it's a sacred privilege to have this ability to breathe air and to be alive. And I believe that we're all here to be of greater service to one another. And as you know, we all go through our own forgetting of who we are and why we came to this world.
Mm-hmm.
And as children, we're all hurt and we're all wounded, and we get away from the remembrance of who we are and that playful spirit of us when we had the life coming through our eyes.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a sacred privilege to come home to that remembrance of who you are and to bring those gifts to humanity. So for me, I think I'm in a place in my life, in my early 50s, where I recognize that every wound that I've ever had, every trauma that I've ever had was nothing more than fuel that I'll eventually have the opportunity to tap into as leverage to powerfully bring my gifts to humanity. The
Mm-hmm.
pain that I witness in others, because I'm on the other side of this, the pain is when we've never gotten past the hurt and the wound and the trauma, and we're still either in the victimhood of it, or we're still in the lack of self-worth, where we feel like my life is messed up because look what happened. And
Mm-hmm.
we can't see past the illusion that no, your soul designed it the way that it happened, and there's a way to tap into this hurt, this wound, because inside of it is the diamond, inside of it is the treasure, inside of it is the necessary fuel and leverage to powerfully serve and bring more of you to humanity. So
Totally.
for me, it came from a broken family. It came from not having love modeled in my household. It came from two amazing people not having an amazing relationship, and my dad leaving home when I was 13. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of wounding where I didn't have the masculine presence in the household. And, here you are 40, 50 years later, and all of a sudden it's like, no wonder I want to save marriages. No wonder I want to build family dynamic, because that was the wounding that I had, and knowing the pain of what it was like for someone, you can't turn your back on that responsibility anymore. So now I want to be of contribution to how does a family build love, build on the foundation of love, and grow yourself as a man, grow yourself as a woman, and bring a family dynamic together.
Totally. I love it. I want to, well, really honor you and thank you for that process and sharing that, because I'm in total agreement. It kind of reminds anyone who's followed me will hear me talk about the conditioned self or the egoic self, and that's all that trauma, all that everything you're talking about there, right?
Totally.
Out of curiosity, so we talk about the pain and the trauma, and there's a lot of guys that are aware of that, a lot of people that are aware of that. What about the guys that come up and maybe they're doing really well and they say, well, actually everything's pretty good. What would you say to these guys?
Yeah, I'd say that one of the greatest addictions that we have today in this world, other than the addiction to having problems and drama, the other addiction that sneaks in, that flies below the radar, is we have become addicted to a life that is good. We've become addicted to a life that's average. We've become addicted to a life that's bland and ordinary. And so we live a life of neutrality. And we forget that we were built for extraordinary, right? So like good's the enemy of great, great's the enemy of excellence, excellence the enemy of outstanding, outstanding's the enemy of extraordinary. I believe we were all born for extraordinary. So for guys that say that, it's either that they're disillusioned, they could be completely just not aware, or they might have swallowed the great pill that most of humanity has swallowed, where they think that good is good enough, or they're just not being forthright and honest with themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was me. I was totally numb. I didn't realize I had a great life, making $250,000, had a great marriage, had, everything was good. Everything was good. Everyone wanted my life. And
yeah,
as my soul required, life had to fall apart because I got too good at being good.
No kidding. Yeah. So tell me more about that, like the life falling apart part. That's, I think, something that I know I can really relate to. Like I told you earlier, like I kind of went through that unhealed healer bit, and having practice, making some great, having great results with people, but not so much for myself, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your journey that way.
Thanks for asking that, because I don't normally talk about it, so I'm glad that somebody's pulling it out of me. So I was coasting. I did have a really good life. I was making really good money. I did have a really good marriage. And clearly my spirit, my soul said, but that's not your destiny, right? And so I wasn't present to that, because I hid behind the mask of being the healer in Manhattan. I had a wellness center, taking care of people. So I'm a hero. Like everyone's life is improving because I'm doing healing work. But my spirit, as I said, had a different agenda. So simultaneously, while having to make a gut-wrenching decision to put my dad into a nursing home with advanced dementia, which was not easy, so many beautiful life lessons came from it. I was basically blindsided by a divorce. I did not see it coming, and it sent me into a beautiful downward spiral of hell, like where we go into the cave, and some of us never emerge from that cave. The dark night of the soul for many becomes the dark life of the soul.
Yeah.
And I had the courage and the willingness to want to find my way out of that. And partially why that happened was my father's passing eventually was something that inspired me to not want to live with regret, and inspired me to want to take risk and to not make the same mistakes, and to honor his lineage and to leave a different legacy, coupled with meeting another woman that became my muse. She became like an enzymatic reaction that lit something inside of me that had been dormant, that had been sleeping. And you put those two together, and I woke up with this hunger, a hunger of wanting to grow, a hunger and a quench that couldn't be satisfied. Where every ceiling I would bust through, I was like, great, now I'm on a new floor, let's keep going. And I realized this is really what's inside of all men, but we don't know until we know. So I'm a stand for helping wake up men. Whether I meet them where they're in pain, or whether I meet them where they know that there's just more and they're hungry to tap into more. There's different entry points, but that was my backstory of really what set me on this path towards Man on Fire. Because I could have easily just remained, a chiropractor at a wellness center in Manhattan that I had for 20 plus years. That could have been my life. But Soul said, sorry, we have a different agenda for you. And And what I've learned is soul doesn't negotiate. So the more you want to argue with your knowing, the more you want to argue with soul, the more pain is guaranteed in your life.
Totally. I mean, that's incredibly powerful, actually, everything you just said. I'm hoping people are getting this, because it's, it'd be a shame to miss it. What was I going to say there? Shoot, it totally left me. But the whole idea of, having for some of us, having to crash. I know that's been my journey, the dark night of the soul, right? And not being willing to really, for me, really implement what I was helping other people with at a deep level. Oh, that's what I was going to say. You mentioned the idea of helping guys wake up. I know there's the whole phrase that, people are woke as fuck, for instance, right? And they talk about the events of the world, typically speaking, that means waking up. But in the sense that I use it, and what you're referring to, is a very, very deep kind of level of self-awareness and honesty, and looking at how do we get past this conditioning, this identity that we've created for ourselves that maybe is actually fictitious. Does that kind of resonate? Is that true for you? Is that do you want to speak on that? This idea of waking up.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Because people have asked me, like, hey, what you do, is it a cult? And I say, yeah, of course it's a cult, because everything is a culture. The question is, what's the culture that you're a part of? Because the idea of every culture is to keep things status quo, is to keep things the same, and to keep anyone from acting out. God forbid we should grow into a consciousness and an awareness that sits outside of the consciousness that the culture is resonating at.
Mm-hmm.
But to be a leader, you have to emerge beyond how the culture is currently seeing things. And as your consciousness expands, so too does your responsibility to stepping into that leadership. Mm-hmm. So my gig is to not walk in the footprints of anybody else. Doesn't mean I can't learn from anybody else. I'm not looking to necessarily reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of wisdom from the past, but the idea is, how do we honor the uniqueness of our own identity? How do we honor who we are, walk to the beat of our own drum, make our own footprints in the sand, and do it in a way that's responsible, do it in a way that's mature, not in a way where you're saying F you to other people. You're doing it in a way where it's inspiring, it's uplifting, where people are recognizing, wow, I've been dishonoring who I am. I've fallen into this identity of who the culture defined me to be, starting with my parents and moving into the school system, into my town, and all these rules that I've been following. Like, hey, why do I still go to church? Or why do I go to Hebrew school? Or why do I go to temple? Or why do I play this musical instrument? Did I want to play this? Or did my mom want me to play this? Like, and we start to question who am I? Because I think the culture has told me who I am, but I don't think I've ever stopped to figure out, who am I? What do I want? And why am I here?
Absolutely. I think that's that whole journey, really. And the idea, one of my favorite quotes, actually, from Tony Robbins, one of my coaches, he said, success without fulfillment is still failure. And so this whole idea of asking those questions, having especially, who am I? That's it reminds me of Ramana Maharshi and the idea of self-inquiry, going deeper and deeper and deeper, and getting past all these layers, right? Now, I know you've worked with thousands of guys, but how what do you, so for everybody watching, like, do you work with people one-on-one? Is it through the events? Like, describe what you do with people.
Yeah, great question. And before we go there, I just want to honor you, Shawn, for, I know that you're into deep reflection and you like to take deep inventory, and you're well studied. And I just want you to know, and for the people who are following you, they're in great hands. Like, that takes a high level of maturation and masculine maturity to want to be a leader for other people, because you're going to be most closely watched. Mm-hmm. Right. So any inauthenticity, lack of congruence in your life is going to be illuminated. It's going to be painful. So I just want to honor you for the courage that you have to stand in the conviction of who you are and shine light for other brothers. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I think what you just said there too about the incongruency. It's for years I felt kind of like a fraud, helping people be able to do all this stuff, and then it all came up to this boiling point, right, where I better get it together, otherwise it's just not going to work. Like, that pain is there, right?
Yeah. But you know what? Like, what I've discovered, like, part of the beauty of that is to also show our humanness. Like, because, like, as leaders of communities, I don't want my brothers to think that I got it all figured out. I don't want them to think that my life is perfect, because it's not.
Totally.
But what I do reveal to them is I'll be vulnerable with you. Like I'll tell you the realness of what's up for me. I'll show you, when things aren't perfect. Like because you follow people on Facebook and you see all these things in the media and you think like I'm screwed up because look how great that person is, but you don't know what their inner thoughts are.
Totally.
I want to bring a level of humanness to it. And at the same token, I will always push and stretch myself and challenge myself to evolve and to grow, because I believe that's part of being a man is we evolve our consciousness, which means if I want to learn something, I have to be willing to let go of what I already know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me, how do you do that with people? What do you?
Thanks for asking. So we currently have it structured where a starting point to come to work with me is a 3-day what's called an immersion. It's where 18 to 24 men are, I playfully say, locked in a room with me and my team, which is kind of true. Where the promise is you're not going to leave the same man that started the program. You're gonna find yourself, and we have tools and processes in place to do that. And you get stretched emotionally and physically and mentally and and spiritually, and it's really beautiful and it's sacred. And then the guys that came to those events then have an opportunity to move forward in a year-long journey, and they become part of my inner chamber. Separate from that, guys have an opportunity to enter at a lower tier where they join my Fire Up Your Life community, which is more of an online community, and they get coached by me on Tuesday nights through a Zoom call. So that's different. That's a little bit lower entry point. And the way that we currently have it is, for the first time ever, we're offering up a seminar called Man on Fire Live. So to come to those immersions, you were looking at, you're not getting in a room with me and my team for under $5,500. The Man on Fire Live is an event that we offer up for $997. Your people are going to get a coupon code for another $700 off. So that's the lowest entry point we've ever offered, to be in a room with me and my team for 3 straight days and 100 other men that are, eager to grow and to learn and to stretch and to be pushed and to be challenged. So to come full circle to your question, yes, I do have some private clients, but these are only guys that have come through one of my immersions, and they have opted in at my highest, level of wanting to have more of my personal time. So I do have that one-on-one, but even within that, they're still a part of the community, because my interest is in how do you interact with community? What are you willing to energetically contribute back to others? I don't really want to just work with somebody that's not invested in wanting to be of contribution to the rest of the community.
Totally. I absolutely love that. And I can imagine, just how powerful, I know how powerful that is for people when they're immersed in that kind of environment, what that can do for you. Right? Very, very cool. And, so what do you, for anybody watching that is kind of new to Man on Fire and what you do, what do you focus on when you're working with people?
You mean like at an event? Like what's the Yeah. So the way that we have it structured is, first of all, like we're really good at putting all judgment and checking it at the door, so that men feel this level of safety of like really like being vulnerable. Like guys will say, within the first 2 hours of our seminar, I just shared more with a room full of strangers than I have with my therapist or my kids or my wife or my best friends, in the last 30, 40 years. And we've set it up that way because it's a very loving, nurturing space filled with a lot of empathy and compassion. So a lot of the program is designed to really help you get clarity on what's been invisible to you, meaning we've all heard of the conscious and the unconscious, or the conscious and the subconscious. And I'm sure you've studied way beyond that to the superconscious and all that stuff. But basically, we know what runs our life is what we can't see. Yeah. So we're really good at helping illuminate what's been invisible so that it can't have power over you. Because the things that have power over you are the things you can't see. Once you could see it, you then have choice. So we call that seeing your game. Like, can you see the game that's been running you? And then we teach the men, well, now that I could see it, how can I play this game differently? How could I learn skills and tools and be given resources where I actually can play the game differently now that I'm seeing it? And we know as kids, for the most part, depends who your parents were, the idea of the game is, number one, is to have fun, playing the game of life, and number two, to win. And what to me winning means is that I finally stepped into who I was supposed to be. I'm finally being the authentic version of myself, and I'm bringing that to humanity. It's not like what you do, it's not about, like, you ask a kid, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, the greatest answer would be, I just want to be me. Yeah. I just want to be me. Yeah. Right. And so we're just teaching guys, like, how do you just finally be you? Because if you're more of you, that's so infectious. And just in you being you, other people will transform just in your presence.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. And that's yeah, I think it's critical that I found most people, that's what they're longing for underneath. If they can be honest with themselves, right? Is the ability to just be them, or to feel really actually empowered and powerful for the first time.
Totally. Totally.
Whether it's somebody struggling with anxiety, depression, indecision, whatever, right?
Yeah, we're great at helping guys with that stuff. It's so fun to watch guys turn that around, like years and years of anxiety or depression, and after a 3-day seminar, like they're confused as to, wait, I don't understand. How did you just do that? How did I just all of a sudden find a part of me that's irrelevant? It's really cool.
That's so cool. I love that. I love what you said too. That basically you help us see what we're not able to see, right? It's kind of like that quote from Carl Jung. Essentially, I might be paraphrasing slightly, but enlightenment is making the unconscious in you conscious. Otherwise, it shows up externally, and you call it fate, right?
Yeah. Exactly. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I love that idea. So, so how many men are typically in a retreat with you? I'm trying to find the word. A retreat with you.
It's okay. We call them immersions.
Thank you.
Because it's a very immersive experience. Because I'm very passionate about helping men have an embodied learning rather than an intellectual learning. And what I mean by that, and where I think people can really follow this, is when you could teach your children, don't touch the oven, it's hot. You can take out the textbook and you could try to explain Celsius and boiling points, and this will burn you. And oh yeah, I get it. No, you don't get it. You don't get it until you touch the oven, right? They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. So at my events, the idea is we give them an understanding of something intellectually that stretches them, that shifts their perspective. And now we recognize that if I don't help you embody this, you're not going to do anything different in your life. It's just going to be something you understand here, and you're a parrot. You parrot it back, but you don't live it.
Yeah.
So we have processes and tools that we help guys get the information in their body, so they have a visceral experience of it. They have a physiological change, so that the common thing that somebody will say when their man comes home, a wife will say, when he came through the door, he felt different. He didn't even open his mouth yet. I felt he was different. That's what we're after, is like the vibration of a guy changing. So of course, how he sees the world, how he's going to behave in the world is going to change, but it's an embodied experience. It's an energy.
Yeah, it's how he shows up.
Totally. But not even like in the actions yet. I mean, just like energetically, like, whoa, who is that?
Yeah, totally. So about half my clients roughly are women, and it's interesting. Some of the most common phrases that they've said are, well, three if I sum it up. One, she has to think of everything. Two, she feels like they're not on the same page, even if they have a decent relationship. And three, the most important one that kind of speaks to it, why I'm bringing this up, even if he's there physically, he doesn't show up. So that presence is not there, that energy you're talking about. So, one of the things that I know you're really big on is protecting the sacred feminine heart. Tell me about that. Like, what does that mean for any women listening to this, or anything going on?
Yeah, and it's exactly what you were just speaking to. So this has to do with men, or said differently, little boys that were then taught to be men. What we were taught was to provide and protect for our family, right? So my father was great at that. There was always food on the plate. There was always a roof over our head. However, he was never present for me. He was never at my Little League games. He was never there to have like a real intimate, deep conversation. He wasn't there for my mom. There was no penetration where he was able to penetrate us emotionally or mentally or spiritually. So I've expanded, like, how do you do this for a woman is you learn the 4 Ps, which is you have to learn how to provide not just shelter and food, but you provide emotionally, you provide spiritually, you provide mentally, you provide physically. You have to learn how to protect. And protection is protecting physically, let me protect the sacred emotions of my wife. Let me protect her mind. Let me protect her spirit, her soul. And then there's 2 Ps that I've added to it, which is presence and penetration. Nice. Presence is what you were speaking to earlier, which is, it's not easy for man, because we're either in the pain of the past or the good old days, or we're in the anxiety of the future, or fantasizing about a life that doesn't exist that we escape to.
Totally.
And so presence is in between those two, is what we call now, here, or nowhere. And so I teach men, well, how do I get present where my capacity to hear my wife, my capacity to hear what's underneath her words,
yes,
elicits a different communication, a different conversation. And so this is a present, the type of presence that a woman is hungry for. She's
totally.
hungry to be heard and understood,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the guy who's in the thoughts, reason, analysis, and logic. And it's nauseating for a woman. And it's painful because she doesn't feel like he understands. She doesn't feel like where are you right now? Like, well, I'm not here. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then the penetration part, we teach the men is like, how do you penetrate your lady, your queen, your wife emotionally? How do you penetrate her physically? How do you penetrate her spiritually?
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful thing when you can learn that, because she wants to be your queen, right? You want to be the king, you want to be the hero, you want to be the champion. She wants to be your queen. But it's not just handed to you, it's a sacred privilege. So I see the heart, to come full circle on your question, I see the feminine heart as what makes, the world spin. It's what lights up humanity. It's why this world still has light in it. But the dimming of the feminine heart because of the lack of safety to be fully revealed and exposed is what is hurting humanity right now. So I feel that it's the man's job to be the sacred guardian and protector of the feminine heart, so the full reveal of her heart can come back into humanity and light up our world again. And that's what I mean by the sacred protector of the feminine heart.
Cool. I absolutely love that, and it's needed. When you think about, I mean, even decent relationships, so many guys have no idea how to do that, and aren't even aware that they need to do that, I think. But then you think about how many relationships that end in separation, divorce, and that started maybe in total love. Like the idea of going from soulmate to soul hate eventually, right?
Yeah,
And that is not needed. There is a different way if we learn how to show up. Right?
for sure. I mean, of course, there are soul contracts that come to completion, and it's needed. And then there's that percentage of relationships that they really didn't need to end, and it was just, two people with a blindfold on, not recognizing, like, how did we get here, right? And so my hunger is to wake up the man before it's too late, is to wake him up so that he can see what's really happening. And if there needs to be another version of him, a higher vibration brought to the relationship, which can transform the relationship, it can bring more intimacy and communication and passion. I want that, right? I'm so hungry to save relationships and to reignite relationships. It's just one of my greatest passions. Cool. And we know why, right? I told you, with the watching my parents fighting, and there was physical abuse and emotional abuse. And it's like, no, like, if a man is standing in the conviction of who he is and can remember who he is and is being the masculine leader, there's nothing to project onto your woman.
Yes.
There's nothing there. It has nothing to do with her. It's like, in fact, she's just a response to what you're giving off. It's an enzymatic reaction of, she's just being a part of you that you haven't accepted. So it's really awesome to teach these guys this and to help them experience this, and then to go home a new version.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's, for me personally, and what I've experienced in my own life and what I've seen, I think it's one of the most needed things there is. Now, talking about relationships, what about masculine leadership in general? What does that mean, for the community, for North America, for the world? Like, what does that actually really mean?
Yeah, I think it's everything we've been speaking to, Shawn. It's really embracing the bigness of who I was born to be.
Nice.
It's having a wide open and available heart that's fully in line with my mind, my spirit, so that my mind can be in action based on what my heart is telling it to do, as opposed to taking actions that are egoic, that bypass the heart. It's having a healthy relationship with what we call, as men, the balls, which is our testosterone, where if it's used properly, it could be used for creation. If it's used improperly, it could be used for destruction. Totally. And so just having that beautiful alignment between your balls, between your power center, Dantian, between your heart center, between your mind, and putting these all into alignment, a man can step into being the masculine leader he was born to be.
Yeah, cool. I love that. So a couple things. I'm just, on a side note, I noticed there's nobody commenting, which is kind of unusual. So I know there's some Facebook issues. So I'm hoping people are on here, able to see this. I don't know for sure.
We won't know until we know.
We know. So I'm hoping people are watching, and if you have comments or questions and you are seeing this, please feel free to ask. We'll see them and try to address them right away. In terms of Man on Fire, what else do you want people to know about it?
We are a movement.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just a company. We're not a business. We are creating a movement in the world. The rise of the masculine leader.
Cool.
And for all the reasons that I shared, and we're clear that we can't do it alone. Yeah. That there's power in numbers, and that we're looking for men that are really ready to up level, really ready to step into the bigness and the authenticity of who they were born to be, to embrace the next level of responsibility in being able to bring a greater amount of you to the world, so you can be of greater service to others. And we want men that are hungry for this, and we want to bring this literally to every country in the world, and it will be.
Cool.
It will be. And one day I'll be above and I'll be giggling and crying and celebrating look at what's happened here. This is amazing, because humanity is really hungry for the next tier of consciousness to emerge. And I would like to think Man on Fire and its movement can contribute to that. We're not the only people that's going to do it. Like, we're one little dot, but if we can be of contribution, then we did our part.
Cool. You know what, David, like, honestly, everything you just said gives me truth bumps. So I think it was my wife actually used the term, but when you get those big goosebumps when somebody is speaking total truth, right? I think she used the term truth bump, so I adopted the term.
I love that.
Honestly, I for me personally, it's everything I'm after.
That's great.
Everything you're speaking to, right?
Both of us.
I just can't stress it enough. Like, it's being able to share this interview with you, and there's some people listening, because I got a comment, somebody listening, so good, so thank you. I personally think it's so much what we can call untrue masculine, right? All the violence, all the aggression, everything else. I mean, there is that part of us, that warrior part, that needs to be developed. I believe that's part of the authentic self, but with the heart, with the connection with the divine, or with spirit, or whatever you want to call it, consciousness, right? So evolving the consciousness, or waking up.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask you? So what in terms of for any ladies watching, what do you find? I mean, I know you mentioned a comment right away that that she can feel the difference in when he shows up at home after an event. What else do ladies say about guys who have gone through this, their partners?
Yeah, they say, I got my man back, I got my husband back. They say things like, I call him my king now. He calls me his queen. Wow. They say that he's transformed his relationship with the kids. They say he's all of a sudden got this hunger and desire to want to crush it at work. Or, wow, what did you do to him? He quit his job and now he's off and running on the business that he always wanted to start. He hasn't spoken to his brother in 20 years. What the hell went on at your event? Like, they're getting together, for dinner.
Yeah.
These are the things that we hear, where relationships start to heal, and marriages start to get reinvigorated with more passion and intimacy. It's classic. And then we have guys that are like shredding their bodies, and the 300 Club. It's really cool.
Cool. I love it, dude. It's so good. I think I might have had a couple other questions that I wanted to maybe touch on. Anybody listening, because obviously the comments are there. If you have questions, please ask, because this is a great time, and anything you can come up with. Like, David, do you have anything else you want to share in particular?
No, I think we touched it all. I mean, obviously, I'd love for your listeners to know that we have an event coming up in mid-November, the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Sorry, 15th, 16th, and 17th in Newport Beach. And if you're touched and moved by what has been shared here, and you feel inspired to want to attend that seminar, I believe you'll be, Shawn, attaching a link for them to get registered, and they get $700 off with your coupon code. Yep. And if that speaks to your heart and you have a yes from this, we'd love to have you.
Good. I would absolutely, anybody listening, or anybody, if you know of anybody listening, I would absolutely encourage you to get this guy involved, get down there. I will be sharing that link. I just got, like I said, with this Facebook glitch, I just got to figure out how to, how to actually share it on here now at this point, because my comments aren't working. But I'll get that on there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
And we'll just redo it every day.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? Honestly, I'm having a blast talking to you. Like, yeah, I don't know about anybody watching, but I can kind of feel that fire. You kind of feel that presence right there, right? So it's really, like I said earlier, it's really refreshing to have that. Right? So yeah, I encourage you guys, get on there. Wicked discount, like $700 off is pretty insane. Make use of it. It's coming up. It's about a week away. Get down there. Great trip. Especially if you're from Canada, with depending on where you are, how cold it can be up here. It's some people like to get away from the cold. Get down to California, have some fun.
Yeah, and I usually tell people, hey, like they'll say, hey, are you going to do this event in Canada? Are you going to do this event in Colorado? Or are you going to do this event in Florida? And I say, hey, no. And my answer is, like, look, I've gone to Fiji for events, right, with Tony. Mm-hmm. I've gone to Guatemala. I've gone to Spain. I've gone to Hawaii. I've gone to India, because if the hunger is there, if the desire is there, my truth is that you find a way. If it's not, then you find an excuse. And there's no judgment towards anybody, but I'm going to keep stuff real always when I speak. It's like, we're either committed to reasons why we can't do something, or we're committed to how we're going to get it done. And that's the code that I live by. I didn't always live that way, and it came with a lot of pain, and I live that way now, and I can tell you it's a hell of a lot more joyous. So I'm really super grateful that you exposed me to your tribe, to your community. Mad respect for you. I could feel the tenderness and the beauty in your heart. I'm a big fan, and I look forward to how we're going to co-create in this world.
Totally. Me too, David. Honestly, it's been an absolute honor. Talk to you. I resonate so much with everything you've talked about, with your energy, with all of it. So I really, really appreciate it. And I hope to see some people, hopefully we have enough people on here that it's working well enough that everybody gets to benefit from what you're saying here.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome.
Much love.
Cheers. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, guys. Any questions, please feel free. I'll get that link up there so you can get your tickets or pass it on. And we'll be talking to you all very soon. Have a good day, everybody. Cheers.